Hey there, my name is Shelby, and welcome to my podcast, Tell Me Something New. I have my friend here, Rubaba, who is going to be on my podcast as my first guest, and I'm just really excited to have him.
Namaste. Good to meet you all.
I met Rubaba back in, I think, August of 2025 at a dance festival, and I had already had on my mind a little bit of this idea for a podcast. I wasn't quite sure exactly what I wanted to make it about, but after meeting him and learning about who he is and what he does, I was like, I have to interview him eventually. And in that time, we've already become friends, and so I'm just really excited to have him here, and I just would love if you would tell people a little bit about yourself before we get into it.
Yeah. So I have been at the intersection of technology, sound, and spirituality. Basically, that's almost like my core area of focus for the last, however number of years I've been working at it. And I think my evolution has led me to creating an offering where I utilize all three to help people work through whatever they are healing from, and arrive into a place of deeper resonance and stillness. And my journey essentially goes from invoking devotion, which is surrender in the heart, using chants and mantras rooted in Indian classical, and then moving to even bigger movement, internal and external both, through sound, and then ultimately arriving into stillness. That's the journey that I create for people. And yeah, my mission in my life is to heal as many hearts as I can through my music.
That's beautiful, thank you. And if you had to kind of summarize it, is this what you would call Nad Yoga? Or is that even broader than Nad Yoga?
It's more like, I want to call it electrical Nad Yoga / sound hypnotics, where there's a lot of dropping into the subconscious mind through music that happens.
Great. Well, I can attest to the fact that Rubaba has been a healer, healing me. As myself, I'm a healer. I'm a mental health care doctor, and I spend a lot of time spending time with people and healing. And he, in a way, other than being my friend, has been such a healing presence in my life in so many ways. And so I'm super grateful. And so now I want to just sort of get into the topic, which is the podcast, which is having people come on and tell me something new. And the idea is, again, to have people just share an idea, a new thought that maybe no one else in their world has shared with them, something that really represents something completely new, something completely creative. Rubaba is super creative, so I'm sure he probably has many new thoughts all the time. But I asked him a few days ago to kind of think about a new thought that was new to him, that was just new intelligence, new wisdom. And so I'm really excited to see what he has to say, and then maybe afterwards I'll share a little bit about maybe my new thoughts as well.
So my new thought in the last month or so has been, and I'm still working on it internally, but I think I'm at a point where I'm ready to share what it is.
Thank you.
The thought is, it has a tagline, and then I will explain what it is about. The tagline is Agitation Before Meditation. What that means is, oftentimes there's this concept or idea of sitting through some posture or some intense concentration and focused effort in order to arrive into stillness. Lots of philosophies, schools of spiritual thought, they advocate for stilling the mind. But what I think is left out often is, how do you go from completely unfocused, disturbed state of mind to an extremely still mind? What bridges those two? And I think that the thought that I had was, it's almost as if the mind gets agitated with all these experiences, moving between desire and fear, and then having attachments to the idea of achieving something or accomplishing something. And then that creates so much pain and suffering that the inside of a given human being can vibrate with an intense amount of torture that why isn't this not working? And that kind of agitation, instead of directly trying to bring the human consciousness and awareness into stillness, I have started creating this practice where I have started embracing the internal agitation. What that means is to a point of even celebrating it. So my journey is now, it goes from devotion, which is about chanting and employing Indian classical melodies and lots of electronic music, to invoke an emotional response in the mind and let all those thoughts, all those stories surface, so that the intellect, emotional body, and the spiritual body, all three are gently, slowly, gradually traveled through to arrive into stillness. In my opinion, it's very hard to directly go to the stillness from a place of intellectual thought or from emotional energy unless these two have been played with enough. And that's what I'm calling as agitation before meditation. That is, you cannot probably meditate so successfully unless you celebrate the agitation and the movement inside you. And by agitation, I mean the movement. So whether it's through dancing or through chanting or through humming or through listening to the sound, or some people have an emotional release where they shed a lot of tears based on an experience of some kind of melody or musical journey, let that happen first and then come into the stillness. That's my latest new thought that I'm working with.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. And as I was hearing you talk and expand upon your idea, I think for me the word agitation has its own connotation because I'm a mental health care doctor, and so a lot of my job is managing pharmacologically agitation. And so often what I realize is we don't need medicines, we need to talk to people, and we need to understand where the pain's coming from, and we need to listen, make sure people feel safe, feel heard. And it sounds like what you were describing is that agitation can be, in a sense, restlessness and distress, but it can also be perhaps the agitation of physical movement through dance and sound and crying and releasing. So it's not, in that sense of the word, it's actually, it may have a positive connotation or be a different conceptualization of what maybe I or the average person might think of agitation.
Yeah, very good to clarify. Agitation, I mean catharsis. Without the catharsis, to try to calm the mind is like trying to tame a beast that has all this energy that needs to move.
Right.
So a lot of people, for example, in my youth, I was a metalhead. And I used to listen to Metallica and Megadeth and all these bands. And people could never understand some of them, those who did not listen to that type of music, could never understand why would somebody bang their head in rhythmic occupation with that kind of music. But the truth is, it's a cathartic exercise. Mm-hmm. Those melodies help you release a lot of emotional energy that you're holding on to inside, stored in your body.
Right.
So that kind of movement, and then arriving and bringing the mind into a place of stillness, is much more healing than directly trying to get to the stillness.
Wow, that's so fascinating. And where did this idea sort of surface from? Was there a specific event that happened, or was it just through your practice of what you do in the dance community or the sound community that it evolved?
So oftentimes people ask me, who was your teacher? The interesting bit is, I never had any one teacher. Mm-hmm. I took the learnings from different places and different schools of thoughts as I experienced them. So for example, when I was learning Indian classical, that taught me how to utilize 22 different emotional signatures and melodies to create an emotional response and invite that in the mind of a listener. Mm-hmm. My electronics and my technical background enabled me to create larger than life sounds that could help people project that energy. My training in rhythm, the drums and the percussions, that basically taught me how to create a rhythmic structure that is in alignment with the pulse or the heartbeat, so that people can really feel that movement. My musical education from Berkeley, that educated me how to bring all this instrumentation and orchestration and arrangement of all these instruments into a cohesive musical experience. Mm-hmm. My background in Vedanta, which is mostly spiritual text from ancient Indian school of Indian school of spirituality, that taught me what kind of what kind of information was my intellect seeking, and what kind of spiritual science would satisfy the questioning mind, because mind is always questioning why, what, how, why am I here, what is this life about, is karma even real? They say you do good, good comes back, but what's the evidence? So my Vedanta training educated me on that, and then I combined all of these into, and I had a good knack for poetry, expressing myself through words. So all that came together into this, for lack of better words, this journey type of experience, which is now a Rubaba experience, which is my stage name.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. That's so cool. You're an incredibly creative individual. How many instruments do you play?
I don't think I stopped counting. So it's more like whatever instrument I want to play, I can play. I mean the general keyboards, bass, guitars. There's a traditional ancient instrument from India called rabab, percussions, drums, basically, and my vocals. These are the standard instruments that I play.
Is the rhythm of the universe and nature also a form of music that you feel like you play? That's amazing.
My most fascinating instruments are two: voice and the heartbeat.
Voice and the heartbeat. Oh my goodness. That is so fascinating. I love how musically inclined you are, and how that it expands far beyond what maybe we would all conceptualize as an instrument. The voice is an instrument, sound is an instrument, the heart. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your new idea. I'm excited to continue to see how that turns into practice and how you influence and touch people. And your meditations that I've been to have been incredibly profound, as well as your DJ sets and all of the work that you do. So I'm just super proud of you. I'm glad that we're friends. And I think I recently had an experience with you practicing where you did Nad Yoga practice on me, and was able to help me move through some emotional blockages and gain clarity in my life about things that I'm going through. And while we were doing it together, I had kind of a new thought to come to me. And during this practice, so I try to compel myself to think of new things and be creative as often as I can. And I try to do it on a daily basis. And typically, a lot of times when my thought comes out, it comes out more in the sense of like a nugget of wisdom, or like wise words or whatever. And this time it came out a little bit differently, and it was almost like more of a sense of kind of playfulness with nature. So while we were doing the Nad Yoga practice and we were outside, I could hear the birds calling. And a thought that came to my mind was, you don't have to have an audience to get applause. That was the new thought. And no one's ever told me that thought. You don't have to have an audience to get applause. All you have to do is listen to the birds. All you have to do is listen to your heartbeat. All you have to do is listen to the rustling of the trees or the raindrops hitting the ground. All you have to do is just listen to the wind. You can always hear applause. And as I was listening and hearing the birds, I heard, instead of the bird was calling, and it was going, kick, kick, kick. And I was hearing, yes, yes, yes. I heard it cheering for me. I heard it cheering for me in a way. I mean, it was just a bird call, but it was so much more to me than just a bird call. And so this idea that you don't have to have an audience to find applause. You can find it here in your body. You can find it in your mind. You can hear it in nature. And I just thought that was a beautiful idea. It's a very playful idea.
Mantra in Sikh religion, with all due respect to the profound 10 gurus of Sikhi, it says, Suniye dukh paap ka nas. Suniye by listening. Dukh means suffering. Paap means sinning. Ka nas means destruction. Through listening, you shall destroy all your suffering and sins. Just by listening.
Through suffering, you shall destroy all of your...
Through listening.
Through listening.
You will be able to destroy all your suffering and your whatever is the conceptual idea of sinning. So there's a lot of guilt in a lot of us.
Right.
That I could have done this, I could have done that, I didn't do this. That all that sin, the idea of sin is related to guilt, basically.
Yeah.
and suffering is all the heartache that we experience.
Right.
If you could just listen, that's what you experience.
Yeah.
You just listened.
Yeah.
And that is Nad.
That
is Nad Yoga. That is Nad means sound.
Nad means sound.
Sound yoga.
Sound
Nad yoga.
Yeah.
Through listening. Suniye dukh paap ka nas. Suniye dukh paap ka nas. And that mantra is so powerful.
That is beautiful.
That's what you experience. And that was written 400 years ago.
Wow. And that's something that I think is really interesting, is that the reason I came and landed on the idea of tell me something new and creating new intelligence and new wisdom and new words is I'm a self-help junkie, and I love reading all the different books, and I love listening to all the different podcasts, and there's all endless learning about all the different types of therapy that I'm going to be able to teach people and practice with people. And a lot of intelligence, it's really just the same kind of concept shared in a different way. And I think what I'm coming to now is that I said something that has been around for a long time, yet I've never heard it directly uttered to me in that way, and I've never uttered it out loud, but yet I'm still connected, and I'm connecting with that intelligence. So I think part of the cool thing about this idea of this podcast is that the more people spend time kind of creatively reflecting and, putting new ideas out into the world, they're going to gain higher connections to intelligence that maybe they didn't have access to, and they're going to start to see connections, and they're going to start to maybe meet people and talk with people and have these conversations and start to connect bigger ideas.
Yeah.
Right. And then I just think that's so fascinating. So that's what I experienced.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's beautiful, because Vedanta also says that all the ancient knowledge and the wisdom is already in you.
Yeah.
Because the source that we came from, it's slightly less humble, in my opinion, to think that source that we came from is somehow less smarter than us.
Yeah.
Because we get into our ego minds and we think that I can figure this out, but it's already been figured out by the source.
Right.
So as long as we can go back to that source, then all this ancient knowledge automatically starts to unfold and manifest, and just starts becoming visible. And that's what I think you talked about, that it just was in you.
Right. It was in me already.
It's been there for thousands of years, and it was always with you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you so much. I have really, really enjoyed this. I hope that we're able to continue to talk about different ideas, and I'm excited to see where this podcast goes. I'm excited to talk to so many different people of all walks of life, and I just feel really honored that you would spend time and just, connect with me and share your ideas, and I'm just really excited to see kind of what comes about this. And I just wish you the best. I wish you many blessings. I'm grateful in my heart for all the healing that you've, allowed me to experience in myself, and helping me to heal myself as a healer. That's been really, really beautiful. You're like a conduit of healing, and thank you for allowing me to spend that time and do that work with you. It's been really an honor, and I'm grateful, just super grateful for our connection and friendship. So anyways, thank you all for listening. Again, this is Tell Me Something New. I'm Shelby. I'm a mental health care doctor. This is my friend Rubaba. And we just want to thank you so much for coming and listening and hearing what we have to say on our corner of the internet. So why don't you maybe come to my podcast one day and tell me something new, and we can have many more wonderful discussions together on this platform. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you.
Great.